Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Fiction Game, a variety tabletop role-playing game stream. I'm your host, as always, Jack, and with me are our four players, Tom, Sam, Hayden, and Miles. We're hopping back into the Kingdom of Telmeri in the mortal plane, surrounded by the 8 worlds. I really need to come up with like a one or two word catchy phrase for this setting. How do we lose someone in the first 60 seconds of every session? I'm just glad it wasn't me. Just see all the faces disappear except for me and the screen that I'm sharing. Welcome back. It's been a month of real time between session 0 and today, session 1, because of a particularly pesky upper respiratory infection. But we're back now. We're excited. We're ready to get into it. Our players even have a new tool to keep track of the special powers and skill sets that they have. Right now, it's live on thefictiongame.com. We have a whole website, and all it is right now is a collection of spellbooks. Alberth's spellbook, Grayson's spellbook, Merigold's spellbook, William's spellbook. For reference, Alberth, same as the first campaign, is played by Hayden. And Merigold, same as the first campaign, is played by Sam. These two old characters are joined by two new characters. Grayson, as played by Tom, and William, as played by Miles. We've got little introductions for them on the heading of each of these pages, but no one can read the 6th of the Discord window that's dedicated to this if they're watching the YouTube video on their phone, or probably if they're watching it on their monitor. We record in such low definition because I don't know what I'm doing. So why doesn't everyone give a 1 or 2 sentence introduction of their character, which we created 2 of them a long time ago, and 2 of them just last session that you can click back onto that. But if you don't want to, we'll introduce them here. Why don't we just go in the order that the spellbooks are on the site, because that's a good arbitrary order to go in. Hayden, tell us about Alberth.
Sure. He's a symbiote druid. He's been that for a long time. He's also an inventor, a beloved friend, and he's dipping his toes into servitorism. He's an acolyte servitor.
Yeah, and for reference, in this setting, all of the magical powers in the mortal plane come from one of the 8 worlds outside of the mortal plane. For example, Alberth is a druid, which means he has spells from a wild folk patron. He's also a servitor, which means he has a second patron this campaign, Elysian, also known by anyone who speaks common in the mortal plane as angels. That is the source of his powers. Each of the 8 worlds has different types of casters and different types of inhabitants, but I'm not going to list them all out like an Ars Arcanum from a Brandon Sanderson novel. We're just going to move straight on to Tom. Tom, tell us about Grayson.
All right. I'm new to this world, so I'm going to be figuring out the magic system and the characters as we go, but Grayson is a demon hunter, a destruction warlock, and a conflicted soul, because
these are just these aren't like character traits. I just put them in. I just put in a brief description. Williams literally says it's complicated at the end of this. These are jokes. You don't have to read that verbatim. But you are the demon hunter and destruction warlock are specific attributes about your characters. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
No, you're good. So Grayson specializes in hunting demons, but as a destruction warlock, his powers are derived from a demon. So that's, and also, from what I remember of session 0 of my own character, the love of his life was taken from him by a demon as well. So, demons.
Very demon-infused backstory.
I do have a question. A demon is what we fought, right?
Yes.
In last campaign in this set? Okay. Whew! Tom, do you know what what a demon is in this setting?
I do not. I meant to go back and watch it. I'll have to do that before next session.
It is something else. I think I went to bed and just like thought about it for a long time that first night that we encountered a demon. So
That
that's an
demon made his
awesome
way
character. I'm
as
so
well.
excited.
And as far as we know, Gil doesn't like Alberth very much.
Yeah.
Next up is Merigold, as played by Sam. Sam, tell us about him.
Yeah, so Merigold was a nobleman, but he ran away because he didn't want to be a nobleman, and he decided to become a busker. Plays a lute, I believe. So he's a musician. He is a storyteller who is beginning to see understand the shape of stories and think that he is in one. He's also a mage. Between the last campaign and this one, he's spent a lot of time buffing up his mage skills, is what we decided. He is also an addict to various substances, the big one being alcohol. When he drinks, he can no longer do magic, which is not something that happens to other mages. It is a problem specific to Merigold.
I'm sorry, I must interrupt. That was what Merigold thought at the beginning of the last campaign. He has since found out that it is universal to magecraft.
Oh, he did?
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, I mixed that up in my head. Okay.
That the trader
Not as
that
broken as
you
we
guys stole the writ of trade from in the I'm doing a deep dive on the second session of the first campaign. But you actually got him drunk and sensed his psychic ward fail as soon as he was. So that was the first hint. But you have also since then joined the Universalist Academy at the Capitol, where you're surrounded by mages, and so you know a lot more now than you did at the beginning of the first campaign, which is reflected in your much larger spell list, for the record.
So how does that work? Is it like a threshold that once you hit a certain blood alcohol content, or is it like a transitioning effect where you slowly begin to lose your powers as you get more drunk?
It is a threshold, and it doesn't take them away. No, they're mostly gone. Yeah. It's a very low threshold, and they go away pretty quickly. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, activation function type. Okay, cool. And also, he's addicted to gambling as well, so those are his vices. But I feel like he's on and off, sometimes rich, sometimes not. Currently not, I think.
Currently not, but he is also attending the Universalist Academy for free as a royal favor.
Yes. Which usually that's pretty expensive, and it's like babysitting for rich folks. Children. Yeah.
Yep.
Something like that.
And last of all, William. Miles, tell us about William.
So, William is a, how do you say, Lycian?
Lycian.
Lycian blooded, so part angel person. I am specifically a blood mage, so somebody that derives my magic from the pain or pleasure of those around me or myself. My specific goal is to end blood magic as a concept, even though I don't even know how that will be accomplished or what that means as a concept quite yet. I hate the idea of blood magic and want it destroyed. And yeah, I think that's everything, right?
Yep, that's all of it. It is undetermined as of yet, and I'm going to leave it up to Miles' discretion, whether William became a blood mage after he decided to remove blood magic from the mortal plane and lead a sort of crusade against it, and he wants to use their own tools against them, or if he had a history as a blood mage and decided after like seeing all of the nuance of it that's when he decided, or if it was long ago or recent. I'm gonna leave that up to player discretion, so anytime you want to drop those backstory elements in, feel free to. But yes, you are both a blood mage and are seeking to just destroy any connection between the mortal plane and the Maw, which is the world of the Razorkin, who give humans their blood magic abilities. It's complicated. But I'm sure we'll find out more. I'm sure that Miles himself will find out more about his character as we dive into this world. This is the second campaign in this setting. If you're wondering why there's like a lot of backstory already written into a lot of these characters, the first campaign is also on this channel, but we're gonna try and do a good job of reintroducing all of the magic system concepts, reintroducing the characters and the dynamics between them. And so, watching the first campaign is not at all necessary for you to enjoy this second campaign, The Axis of Instinct. So, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing we're going to see, in the Kingdom of Telmeri, in the capital city, which is also known as Telmeri, as a lot of royalty tends to name capital city, nation, name it all after themselves or their house or that kind of thing. Everyone just knows it as the capital. It's a grand city at the foot of an even grander mountain. Mount Deity towers into the sky, and for huge portions of the day, the city is completely in shadow of this obelisk-like mountain. It used to be the home of a huge contingent of dwarves, until that is a particularly aggressive campaign from the royal family of this very kingdom wiped them out entirely. But the dwarves are gone and the mountain remains. A stark testament that those who claim this area may not, still won't necessarily outlive the mountain itself. So, in this capital city, there is an academy where aspiring mages and scholars travel from hundreds and hundreds of miles away to learn a great deal of not just erudition, but also magic. Magecraft being of particular interest to those at the Universalist Academy at the capital. Magecraft is empowered by learning. So the more a mage learns, not just about magic itself, but about any subject, the more powerful they become in their magecraft. But there is a darker side to this. Not only scholarly study leads to magical power, secrecy also creates great power for mages. They gain new spells through diligent study, and they empower those spells through secrecy. And so it is that at the Universalist Academy, there is a sort of quid pro quo outside of simply paying for attendance to classes. Merigold discovered only a few weeks after joining the Universalist Academy, which, as we mentioned earlier, he did for free after having performed a favor for the Queen. The whole party did, in fact. Yeah, what's up?
So this is, okay, I think I was under the impression that this was like less cool of a school than it was, because I think one of the other options instead of that was like own a bar, which makes me think Nick from New Girl. But this sounds a lot cooler than I thought it was, so I take back my earlier comment.
Yeah, no, this is like an actual renowned academy. And you were guaranteed admission for free. However, you soon discovered that general admission doesn't apply to everything that can be gained at the Universalist Academy. It is based on magecraft, after all, and most students at the Academy are aspiring mages, and mages don't only gain power from diligent study. As a result, only about 1 in 9 classes, Merigold was distraught to discover, are covered by the general catalog and general admission. There are a great many secret classes, not known to the public and only known through word of mouth. Students and teachers are sort of like a variable mix that people are learning while they also teach the subjects that they've already finished in a kind of constantly tumultuous upward ladder. And admission to a class isn't only contingent on admission to the universe or the academy as a whole. One must trade in favors and secrets to gain admission to the most secretive of classes. Merigold,
this is frighteningly familiar sounding to me.
It is? Okay. Wait, from what?
Oh, just students and teachers in a constant struggle to move up the ladder and having to teach while taking classes at the same time, and the whole politics thing. Yeah, no, it's not.
Those of you who are confused, Sam is currently a PhD candidate. So, Merigold now sits in the first secret class he has had the pleasure to attend. His first term at the Universalists Academy being spent in general admission classes, he soon made friend with a classmate by the name of Fergus, a fellow expat from the Kingdom of Venel. You quickly became drinking buddies, and he told you about a class that he was intending to teach in High Hall Green, which is one of the 7 main lecture halls at the Universalist Academy. Just like any other lecture that's going to be held in one of these enormous halls, it's only secret in the way that it's not on the general catalog, and you have to approach him specifically to gain admission. But Merigold now sits with maybe 120 other students in this grand hall of the least secret class in the Universalists Academy. The name of the class is Otherworldly Studies, the basics of the 8 worlds, their inhabitants, and their effects on the mortal plane. While it is not one of the most secretive classes, the price for admission is somewhat steep. Admission to secret classes is, of course, gained by trading other secrets. Obviously to empower one's magecraft. However, Fergus and Merigold had become such fast friends that Fergus invited Merigold to sit in on this class for free. Fergus approaches the big slate at the front of the class with a thick bar of chalk, and continues his lecture. He's been going over stuff that, you already knew about how casters gain their magic from deals with patrons from the Otherworlds, and he went over the basic terminology of this world is called the Bog and Mire. Its residents are the wild folk, and the people who make deals with wild folk patrons, well, those are druids. He also talked about how there are probably more druids than any other type of caster, but you'll see fewer of them than any other type of caster because they're more likely to spend their entire lives in the woods and wilds of the world, rather than in the city streets. This is, of course, familiar to Merigold because he had 2 great friends who were druids. Now, of course, that number has tragically been reduced to 1. But Fergus begins to create a diagram on the board. Now, he says, how does all of this connect? Well, a bit over 2,000 years ago, the worlds looked like this, and he draws a large circle on the whiteboard and then draws from it 6 arrows going outwards in each direction. He says there were 6 worlds outside of the mortal plane, and they each seemed to contradict another one in terms of nature. This has been a popular theory for a long time, is that each world has its polar opposite. For instance, Lycia and the Hells, he says, pointing to the worlds of the angels and demons, respectively. He draws a long line, of course, them being opposites of one another. In the diagram that he draws, they are up and down, juxtaposed. Obviously, Lycia, the world of the angels, being on top and the Hells being on the bottom. He says they are juxtaposed across what is referred to as the axis of faith. And he draws Lycia at the top and the Hells on the bottom. He draws 2 additional slashes, top left to bottom right, top right to bottom left, and writes in the name of the worlds on the other side. The Bog and Mire and the Maw contradict one another along the axis of instinct. And, he points to top right, bottom left, Solari and the Nightlands are opposed to one another along the axis of structure. Structure meaning one was supposed to be the embodiment of law and the other the embodiment of chaos. Of course, it's more complicated than that, but not lecture number 1 more complicated than that. We'll just go into it later. But of course, there was something missing. And he draws a final line from left to right across it, but doesn't write the name of either world along these ends. He says there was an additional axis with no world on the left side or the right. Well, I say left and right. These are all theoretical direction. There's not really a universal, and they don't have neighbors. They just have, polar opposite worlds. Anyways, this final axis was unclaimed. Like unclaimed territory, there was sort of space for a forged world, but there was no world yet. This is the axis of cognition. And then over on the right side, he writes the Cuningdom, which you know well is the world of your patron, and the patron of all mages, the Ascended. The Ascended all used to be humans. He writes that down and says, of course, about 2,000 years ago, the Cuningdom was forged. How? We don't really know anymore. Mages being, what we are, it was kept secret, and that secret may well have just been lost to time. Not back then, but by now. I'll get into that. The Cuningdom was the world of the mages, and it began to gain incredible power because it was uncontested along the axis of cognition. So, 1,200 years ago or so, along came the bards, or the sorcerers. They were all bards back then, but they're not anymore. And he writes it on the left hand, Wraithil. He says, the world of the eloquent came along to counteract the forces of the Cuningdom along the axis of cognition. We were enemies for a long time, and indeed you'll still hear people say that one can't be both a mage and a sorcerer at the same time. That's objectively true, as I'll explain later in the lecture. And he goes on talking about these 8 worlds and the 4 axes along which they lie, and the theories of how were the worlds created? Can other worlds be created? Were the 6 worlds created? He does mention about this one, there is, to be said, the theory that none of the worlds existed before the mortal world, and that we had created the other 6 outer worlds, but at some point, how we did so, or the fact that we did so, were lost to time. The fact is, written language only goes back so far, so that's entirely a possibility, that we did that and then forgot that we did that. Of course, the Otherworlders almost all have humanistic characteristics, the least of those being the demons, the wraiths, and the Razorkin. And he starts writing down. He throws out various just like random details like that aren't directly applicable all the time. And so the lecture passes pretty quickly, and you're not exactly sure what to write down. There aren't exactly tests because you're here voluntarily. Like the only test is whether you know the information or not. And you've already paid for entry, so no one's like following up with you. Like, did you write it down after I wrote it down? Anyways, in the last 15 minutes or so that are slated for the lecture, Fergus introduces a guest lecturer, an older man, graying of hair, but still with a really athletic build, by the name of Yorl. Yorl introduces himself and explains that he is one of few mortals in the mortal plane who has actually been to another world and back. He explains that he'll answer questions at the end, but that his good friend Fergus had invited him to discuss the nature of the 8 worlds and their difference from the mortal plane. He begins to speak, and his voice has like a quality that you associate with much, much older people, like in their 80s, while this guy looks like in his late 50s. But his voice still has that strained quaver of someone who is well past their prime. He says, the most concise way I have to explain it is, our world, and he gestures to the circle at the center of the diagram, is prose, and the 8 other worlds, and he gestures to the outer rings, are more like poetry, in a more concrete and long-winded way that I suppose you could use more. Let me explain it like this. In our world, reality predates perception. There is an underlying physical universe which we perceive through the flawed lens of our own senses. In the other worlds, perception predates reality. The connection between seeming and being is different in each of the 8 worlds, and each seems to be constructed on a conceptual theme. Did we create each world in prehistoric times immemorial? And he gestures to Fergus, who had posited this theory earlier. Or did we discover them and reshape them through the very act of perceiving them? Or are concepts like good and evil, study and art, law and chaos truly fundamental to the cosmic reality in some way that laws like gravity and inertia are fundamental to our physical reality? These are the questions that my life's work has, as of yet, failed to answer. The lecture ends soon after that, and Merigold and all of his fellow students are left to pack up their things and make their way. You make your way to down the winding streets away from the Universalist Academy and into the sturdier, wider flagstone streets where, like, markets that are more market-like, where caravans like travel from place to place. There's rooms for horse, buggy, chariot, and foot traffic. And you find your way to a little corner shop where a short friend of yours is working on his various inventions. Alberth, the inventor of the gun. Alberth, do you want to describe the strange weaponry, the mechanism that you are now tinkering with, and whose sale has become your method of like bettering your financial situation here in the capital?
Sure thing. I call it the gun. It is a revolutionary way to launch projectiles, and it looks like a bow with a stick on it. It's a medieval crossbow. But I call it the gun for reasons that you'll have to go watch season 1 to figure out. But I'm working on, like, refining it. I'm working on, like, the lever. Okay, you guys know that scene from Game of Thrones where Joffrey, like, he has got the freaking big ass crossbow that he needs, like, the lever to, like, actually, like, crank it back. I'm working on, like, a smaller version of that so that it can just, like, instead of having to manually do it every time, it's you got a nice lever. So that's what I'm working on right now as Merigold walks in.
Solid. There are half-finished projects all over the wall of this workshop. Various work in progress models of the gun, and also a mechanism that looks sort of like a glass bottle with a little plunger on one part of it and water filling up the rest of it, that connected to a long lever that looks like it would pull the platform, pressing the water against the surface of the glass bottle and shooting the liquid out. Out of curiosity, do you have any other like half thought out inventions that Alberth might be working on that are hanging from the walls or the rafters or sitting on workbenches and anvils around the place?
Probably just like a bunch of dumb ideas, like 4 throwing knives that are all, like, glued together in, like, a star shape, but it looks like it's long been discarded as, like, just a overall bad idea.
Sharp swords.
Yeah, exactly. Things like, yeah, probably lots of different, like, types of arrow, like, attachments, like probably some fire arrow stuff, and then some, like, weird, like, a heavy, like, ball that has maybe some, like, weird, like, powder on it, and you're not sure if is it, like, gonna explode, is it meant to, like, hit and then, like, you're not sure what any of these things really do, and it looks like that's just like a weekend, like, throw something at the wall kind of thing, but hasn't really been cleaned up yet.
Yeah. It's worth noting that Alberth's ingenuity is not the only driving creative force behind the sort of half-organized chaos cluster that is this workshop. Nearby, in a door that's been left ajar, is a connection to another working space, a foundry that has long lain cold. Inside are hung up a number of projects that were accomplished by dearly departed Keath. These weapons are made of Tiefschall, all the Tiefschall that he could find before his sickness, the skulking end, finally took him. And as Merigold looks over, he remembers, not for the first time, that despite the fact that Merigold has never picked up a forging hammer in his life, he is one of the few people on this planet that knows how to work this particular metal into a new shape. As you ponder this, Merigold, we mentioned earlier that new mage spells are gained via study and empowered via secrets. You have access to at least one powerful secret. The secret of how one forges and reforges Tiefschall. To which of the spells in your spell list have you bound this power, using it to empower that spell?
Well, I see I have a few new spells. I think it would be cool. Okay, so is it just going to make it more powerful, or will it also like reduce cooldown time, or is it
Both.
a combo of both?
Yep.
Okay. So I think I want to do it to the exhaustive strength spell, actually.
Yes. So, viewers, for reference, I have it brought up now on the shared screen, so I'll make that the main screen. But there's a good chance you still can't read that anyways. So let me explain. Some of Merigold's spells that he has gained from this process of going to the Universalist Academy, some of these are spell enhancements that are sort of like meta magic, if you've ever played D&D or Pathfinder.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, or if you prefer a Brandon Sanderson reference, they're like Duralumin, where they can affect the casting of other spells. Specifically, Merigold has Enhanced Spell 2-pronged, which allows him to take a spell and double the quantity of targets that it can affect, and Enhanced Spell Exhaustive Strength, which allows him to greatly empower a spell, but make it so that he can't use that spell for a much longer time than normal. So Sam is saying that he would like to use the secret of how to work Tiefschall to enhance the enhanced spell Exhaustive Strength, which means it really will work a lot like Duralumin from Mistborn, in that he will make one spell really explosively powerful and then not be able to use that spell for potentially days at a time. This, of course, works very well with Merigold's current, the way he currently lives his life, which is being able to cast spells for a couple days at a time and then going on almost life-ending benders. So,
what is his state as he walks into the shop? Which of those two is he?
That's a great question. It is a learning day. You had classes today. Do you think that's enough reason for Merigold to be sober today, or do you think that, or not, basically?
No, yeah, that would be.
Right on. Hungover is how he looks in that case.
Yeah, there you go.
He doesn't actually... He's gotten to the point of alcohol use where he doesn't actually look better when he's sober. He looks worse.
Let me get you some water. Here, take a seat.
Spray it into with the super soaker you mentioned. Now, follow-up question for more secrets. First to Alberth and then back to Merigold. Alberth, you know a powerful secret. Your knowing this secret might be putting you in danger as we speak. Specifically, Alberth discovered something about the nature of demons and their power during last campaign. It is a powerful and dangerous secret. Did you share that secret with Merigold, knowing two things? First of all, that he could use it to similarly empower a second spell on this already powerful spell list. And also that when you discovered this secret, the demon immediately tried to kill you and only left because its life was in grave danger. And it just had to escape you killing it. There have been no sightings or attempts on your life in these 3 months since the first campaign. But you know from your symbiotic link with the demon, coincidentally, the last symbiotic link that Alberth was able to utilize before that link disappeared.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Oh, no, it happened!
Dang it.
Yeah, you froze.
Oh, I did?
You're
I
still
will
frozen. Oh, there you're back.
Oh,
Okay.
am I back in a good way where you can hear this whole sentence?
Yep, all good.
Right on. I was talking about symbiotic link and the secret that Alberth discovered. Okay. So you discovered through your symbiotic link, and coincidentally, the last symbiotic link that Alberth was able to utilize before he lost that power. You discovered something like a big deal about the nature of demons and their power. That's what I was saying. And you know from your symbiotic link that this demon would stop at nothing to end your life and make sure that the secret dies with you. With all of that in mind, knowing that it is both a dangerous and a powerful secret, did you share it with your new friend Merigold? And by new, I mean made last campaign. Presumably you guys have been friends since then. I'm operating on that assumption.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it would have taken him a little bit because he'd be kind of scared, because that is like, Tiefstahl is one thing. The whole deal with demons, I feel like, is on maybe even another level. And he would have wanted to make sure that Merigold wouldn't just turn around and kill him immediately to have that secret all to himself.
If Alberth died and Merigold did know that secret, would the power double? Because the number of people that knew it would be reduced by half.
Assuming that they are the only two people who know it. Now, Alberth doesn't have a sense for that just from knowing the information, but I would like to mention, while Keath was one of few people who knew how to work Tiefstahl, he wasn't the only person who knew how to work Tiefstahl. And Merigold can actually sense the scarcity of this information as well as its power. So if someone new were to learn how to work Tiefstahl, or if someone who knew how to were to die, Merigold would be able to sense that through how much that power changed. That also means that if on the off chance that any mages know this demon secret, they sensed it when Alberth gained this information, and they would greatly sense it if Merigold began drawing on the power of this information. So, all of that in mind, have you shared this powerful and dangerous secret with Merigold? Yet.
Yes, I think so. It would have taken him a couple days to reason it out and be like, should I? But I think for the greater good of all of the world, it's probably best that somebody knows.
Yeah. Also worth noting,
specifically exactly one other person.
Yeah, that's another thing. Have you told anyone else? Have you disseminated this information?
I think Alberth has had a lot harder of a time opening up to people. One, because of the symbiotic link just not working for him anymore. But two, because of all of the craziness that kind of happened at the end of campaign 1 of wait, we're not even sure who we can really trust yet. Especially in the current government of the city that is treating us really nicely, but we kind of really don't know what's going on. So no, it's just Merigold so far.
Yeah.
And he probably would have told Keath too before the end.
Good to know.
They felt one of us die.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Then a follow-up question for Merigold. Merigold, knowing that other mages would be able to sense it if you started drawing on this power, and that they've likely already sensed it if there are other mages drawing on this power, that you learned this information, did Merigold have the absolute audacity to use this particular secret to bind it to a spell?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt.
Okay.
100%.
What spell?
Do it. Do it.
Compel indiscretion.
Yeah. And a follow-up. As soon as you bound this secret to a spell, there's something to be noted. We actually saw Alberth increase in power as a druid. He was given a wild boon, in fact, 2 wild boons, by a visitation from his wildfolk patron, Gawara. Now,
Rip.
a mage can gain new spells in a very different way. Essentially, it's automated. That you made a deal with an ascended patron to gain the ability to gain new mage spells, but your advancement does not require constant babysitting from one of the ascended. He just considers you under his patronage, and like when you gain new power, he knows that it happens, but he doesn't have to specifically dole out that power. And in fact, you happen to know that your patron has hundreds of mages in that like directly answer to him. As soon as you bind this secret to a power, you receive a message via courier from your patron saying, we need to meet immediately and discuss whatever the absolute bullshit this is, because I demand that you tell me this secret or you will be removed from my retinue.
Whoa!
That
Can
was
he do that?
recent enough. Yes, he can revoke your power. That was recent enough that the time that he demanded you meet with him has not happened yet. So we will see that on camera live. So, all of that in mind, secrets shared, mourning shared as well. That's MOUR for the record. I mean, it's also morning time, but I wanted to I mean, you're both morning, Keath. Anyways, you guys were supposed to meet at this time on this day for a very specific reason. You meet every week to do it. You two head together, walking down the street, a very asymmetrical pair of lads, and you go to the Red Temple to visit a good friend. As you guys walk in, the membership of the Red Temple, which is, of course, a blood mage sanctum. It is a place that blood mages gather their power and dispense their power. About 3/4 of the building is actually a hospital. It's always been the best place for magical healing in the city. There's also a High Chirurgeons Guild that are very excellent at like practical, mundane healing, like non-magical healing. But anything that can be fixed by magic, which is a lot of things, the Skulking End, you wouldn't be able to like healing potion essentially your way through it. Just like a lot of chronic ailments like tumors and like a lot of like muscle degeneration things, those can't be really out healed with magic. You can lessen their symptoms, but you can't lessen their progress. In fact, tumors frequently like grow with magical healing because they are being regenerated just like other tissues in your body are being regenerated. Anyways, we're going really hard on the complications of the magic system here, but the Red Temple has always been a deeply effective place. In the last month or two, it has become an insanely effective center for healing because of the presence of your dear friend. When you first met Abelkashad, he had a spear through him that was left there by a blood mage. Blood mages able to gain power that is very useful for healing from inflicting either pain or pleasure. Of course, it's much easier to inflict pain than it is to genuinely cause someone else to be happy. So a lot of blood mages end up doing it because it's easier. Of course, Abelkashad being 7 feet and 8 inches tall and incarnated into a body in the mortal plane that is simply far more powerful than the average mortal, he didn't really mind having a spear through him, weirdly. But since then, he has decided to take it up a level. And so the attendants of the Red Temple usher you up into a tall area that used to be a place for flagellants to do their work. Flagellants being blood mages who gain particular power from causing themselves pain rather than causing other people pain. It is a tall, like, arched ceiling area with light coming in through red stained glass, almost like a mega church. Like, that's how tall of a ceiling we're talking. The floor is all grates to allow for blood to pass through. And these like fine mesh grates are stained red from years and years of flagellants, essentially causing themselves pain in order for the hospital to do an effective job of treating the sick. Now there are very few flagellants who walk the sort of bloodied grates along the bottom. Instead, suspended maybe 60 feet in the air is the halo-shrouded form of your dear friend, with hooks through each clavicle and at each side of the abdomen. He is fully suspended with needles and spears and hooks through so many parts of him. He is suspended with his arms splayed like a man about to be flayed. And as you guys walk in, his booming voice says, "Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Come on in."
I have a question.
Marigold.
So the big secret that we discovered about the demon was basically that demons aren't necessarily inherently evil, but just want to be seen as being evil. I know we love Abulka Ashad, but is it possible that angels aren't inherently good, but just are concerned about the image of being perceived as being good?
Oh, gosh.
That is an excellent question. Have you asked Abulka Ashad this in the past?
I'll do it right now.
Right on.
I see you've got this whole, selfless get up going on, but I gotta ask, you seem to be going to a lot of lengths to be seen as I don't know.
So I gotta tell you, he says, looking down at you guys from way up. So I know that I have enhanced eyesight, and with his bound hands, he kind of gestures towards his eyes, which are rimmed with a gold iris. It's worth noting, Alberth's eyes are similarly affected since he has been healed by Iker from his comatose state. And Alberth has actually gained that enhanced angelic eyesight. So Abulka Ashad shouts down, "Yeah, I know, that my eyes are super powerful. You should know my ears, not. They're totally mortal ears. I'm going to need you to step up on the big scaffolding that they've got leading up to me and say all of that again, because I didn't catch anything." So you guys walk up several floors of makeshift scaffolding and past several blood mages who are sitting by and frequently taking out the barbs and adjusting them again, or gathering the ichor that drips from Abulka Ashad in sort of gathering plates where they're moving it off to use it, also medicinally. This place's efficacy as a hospital has been multiplied by 1,000. It's crazy.
And I'm going to mumble as we walk up. All I'm going to say is, this is a very visible and public display of selflessness.
Yeah, and it makes me super uncomfortable because, I've known that guy for a long time. I do not like how many hooks are inside of him right now.
So you guys get to the top of the scaffolding, and I'm assuming, Merigold, you ask that in more or less the same phrasing? And,
maybe a little nicer, but, hungover, so.
And Merigold nods, listens through all of it, and he says, "Well, first of all, I'm super glad you came directly to me with this, Merigold, because I know that you are you deal in secrets because you're a mage, and I also know that the thing that you want from other people more than anything is honesty. And you've proved that countless times on our adventures. Even your magic powers you use for nothing more than you use it to get the truth out of people. You're passionate
See,
about
this is
that,
making me
and I
like you.
respect
You
it.
understand the
So,
dilemma here.
yes, I do understand your dilemma, and so let me tell you about it. You guys know, because I've brought it up before, that there's an oath that all of us angels follow. We got to be honest, direct, helpful, and kind in that order. So I'm going to tell you what's the deal with me and all the other angels, because honesty and directness come before helpful and kind. So
It's hard to remember when you've got all these. I understand.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So a long time ago, what you just said, that was actually true. We used to deal more in reputation than actual. His arms are still up here, but I'm not going to do that for this whole speech. We used to be more about reputation than action. But can I tell you, there's nothing that harms someone's reputation more than people finding out that you're more about reputation than actions. And so that whole deal of honest, helpful, direct, honest, direct, helpful, and kind, got to get that order in there. That became a big deal around the formation of the world of Wraithel. So like 1,200 years ago or so, we decided, hey, we got to cut the reputation shit out. The only way we're going to build a lasting, positive, and powerful reputation is by being who we pretend to be. And so ever since then, I mean, we've always been sort of aligned towards doing good things just by the nature of the axis of faith. But now we've determined that the best way to maintain those powers is to use them for good. You know what I'm saying? So yes, you're absolutely right that our power is directly derived from our reputation. And if we kept doing good things, but nobody heard about them, we wouldn't be as powerful anymore. But we decided that the best way to be good was to stay good. You know what I mean? So
you're saying that this whole getup with the hooks and the spear, you would still do that if it was all invisible and no one would ever know about the pain that you're in?
no, I would die if that was the case. I do want people to know about it. Because if they didn't, then I wouldn't be powerful. And I wouldn't be able to, survive something like this. But yes, I am saying that we strive to do the good that we are known for doing. We'd also like to maintain that reputation. We like people to think of us as good people. But the best way to do that is just by genuinely being good people. When you live for hundreds or thousands of years, and I'm talking per incarnation, I've existed for longer than, like, civilizations in this world, just not in this body, So, shoot, man, where was I? Right, reputation. Yeah, no, we try to do the good and then be known for the good in that order. It's just the only way it works when you're alive for this long. You know what I mean? On top of which, I think if you live as long as I do, you start to run out of a craving for empty power. You want to see the results of that power. And the best way I have to see the positive results of my power is to constantly do the best I can with it. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, that was a great talk. Thanks, Avoka. And, really, I know it's all for the betterment of humanity and stuff, but I'm sorry about the hooks. That looks like it really hurts.
Oh, it's super.
And I'm also going to, real
the
quick, cast an awareness of secrecy just to double-check the guy.
He is hiding something from you, but it's not when he talks about reputation. It's when he says that he's okay.
Oh,
That's so
gosh.
sad.
It's deeply sad.
I'm fine.
I'm going to push it and say, so are you sure you're okay? Something seems to be bothering you.
He pauses for a long moment, and he says, okay, honest and direct. I don't know how long I can keep this up. But I gotta tell you, and he starts to cry a little bit. And while he bleeds a different color than you, the tears look the same. And as a tear runs down his face, he says, I don't know if I can do this forever. And truth be told, we Lycians have a tendency to wander from place to place. It's why I started to leave you guys before Alberth fell in combat and needed me here. But I don't think I would have lasted this long if I was in there. And with the very limited range of movement he has, he gestures with his head towards the highest floor of the Red Temple, which is sort of the ICU, like the place where the worst cases tend to go. He says, I can't fix all of the illnesses of mankind while I'm in here. I can't even fix all the illnesses in the capital. And if I could, then I think that Keath would still be here. And so this is as close as I can get to that. And it's not close enough. And I just got to stay here for as long as I can take it, because as soon as I get down from here, they start to die. And it looks like he's going to say something else. And then he just closes his mouth and puts his head down as if ashamed.
Well, that's okay. Sometimes all you can do is pour one out for the people you lose and do your best to move on. And I'm going to take a flask out, pour a little out, and then take a giant swig.
Sober day over for Merigold, baby!
Shit, sober day might be over for Miles, too. So sad.
Albert's going to reach out and, also... Whew.
Yep.
That was rough.
And for a time, the hall is silent, save for the drips of ichor into a collection basket. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the capital city, a man in a dark cloak sits atop a white horse. Grayson has traveled with this horse for some time, and he thinks once more of softer, warmer times just a week ago. In a city called Ernhold, Grayson was hunting reports of a warlock and a loose demon, as well as a suggestion from his demon patron to destroy a local artifact said to cure blindness. Grayson was investigating these rumors to see if it was true, that it did really have magical or otherworldly powers, because if it was simply an object of faith, it was worth destroying it for the power that he would gain. However, he was pulled from this assignment, on which he was sent from the Hand of the North, when one day in deep sleep he was racked with a dream. A powerful dream, the likes of which he's only had a handful of times before. As we've discussed earlier, when Alberth was in his coma, and when you heard about the death of Duke Visica, or Archduke Visica, I apologize, in Campaign 1, the dreams and deathbed prophecies of a caster are particularly powerful portents of the future. There is something genuinely prophetic about a caster that lies between the waking and sleeping worlds. And so when Grayson dreamt of a crowned city in the shadow of an ancient mountain, above which loomed 3 pitch-black storm clouds, he knew even before he woke from the dream what he needed to do. You see, on each of the pitch-black storm clouds, there was an emblazoned runic eye, written as if with permanent fire onto their surface. The eyes, as Grayson well knows, are the symbols of a demon. Demons being these strange black, inky black pillars. They manifest these flame rune eyes to witness the world around them, and these are the only weak points of a demon, as the rest of our party discovered last campaign when they struck 2 of a demon's three lives from its exposed eyes before the demon ran away on on the brink of death, being chased by demon hunters whose names you had yet to gain. Two of the eyes in Grayson's dream were crossed out. 2 of 3 lives ended before the demon would be cast back into the hells for 100 years. But the third eye lay intact, staring down with fiery intensity on a short man in a red jacket. The man was unaware of the eye's presence, and Grayson knew he had to find this city in the shadow of an ancient mountain, find the man in red, and warn him before it was too late. Of course, Grayson's companions and comrades in the Hand of the North, a secret demon-hunting organization, didn't realize that he was a caster, because Grayson's patron was not a wild folk, making him a druid, or one of the Ascended, making him a mage. It was, in fact, one of the very demons he had sworn to hunt. The Hand of the North being unaware of this, because of Grayson's skill at lying and the warlock power known as Silver Tongue. It had given him the charisma and cunning to lie his way into the organization without them ever realizing his secret powers. So Grayson couldn't tell the Hand of the North that, oh, well, I had a caster vision and now I have to go to this city that, after a little bit of research, I've discovered is the capital of Tel Meri. He couldn't tell them that. He instead told them that he had some sick family to visit at the Red Temple, got on his horse, and rode to the capital. Grayson had been to the capital before, and he knew exactly who he would meet there. An inheritor, clad all in silver, who had sworn herself to the crusade against Hell's invasion. She was a longtime ally of the Hand of the North. He would find Yasika in the capital. She would know what to do. And so Grayson gains entry into this city and begins to seek out his ally, Yasika. Meanwhile, the city is walked by a tall, tall man who, if one were to look closely enough, one would see a pale ring of gold around his iris. It is not Avalkash Shah, the angel we met earlier, nor is it Alberth, the druid who nonetheless had this angelic eyesight granted by his consumption of ichor. It is an altogether different sort of man. It is William, a blood mage and also descendant of Elysium. William is in town to visit his ailing grandfather. Your grandfather, William, is up there, getting up there in years, and after visiting him, you have confirmed your worst fears, that he is in the situation that so many older people find themselves in. He's not okay, and the people around him know it, but he doesn't. You've contacted your cousin, and she's coming to the city soon to help you. You'll talk to him then. But until then, you are doing something that you do every time you make it to a major town. You are exercising something, an attribute that you've gained from your Lycian blood, an awareness of grace. It is at this point I'd like to pull back the curtain and talk about the magic system a little bit. Each one of the Otherworlders from the 8 Otherworlds has a sense that is partly given to their casters when they become patrons, just like Merigold has an awareness of secrecy, and Alberth has an awareness of instinct. He can tell when someone is in a prey or predator mentality. He can tell when like a relationship between two people is symbiotic and when it is parasitic. Just like those, the awareness of instinct, the awareness of secrecy. Lycians and their the casters who have Lycians as their patrons have an awareness of grace. Grace is a powerful sense that, let's see here, allows you to detect a person's emotional state and the actions that would most strongly affect it. And so as William, I also need to mention, it is one of those muscles that the more you exercise it, the better you get at it. Grace is a powerful tool, and so William is now going from street to street, watching the people and determining with his sense of grace how they're doing. It's sort of a people-watching exercise, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, and William has done it a lot. And now as he walks the street, he looks and sees a merchant. He's feeling down. He needs some assurance. And so William finds a time to walk over, speak to the merchant, ask him about his wares and where he's been. And he finds subtle ways to uplift him through the course of the conversation. And as he does so, William feels his awareness of grace growing. Continues his walk down the street and finds an urchin. He speaks to the urchin, determines that the urchin is doing well, but, only for an urchin. William, being a man of means by now, with his between his powers as a caster and his unique ability to just thrive in any situation as the descendant of Elysian, he gives the urchin the coin that they need to make it through another day. And he walks from place to place, doing such subtle good works that few care to notice him long enough to sort of leave an impression in their mind. William is walking down one of such streets when he is passed by a young man and a young woman in clearly noble attire, speaking in hushed tones, or tones that they think to be hushed enough, but William's keen hearing overhears them as they walk by. They're discussing something that they learned that day. They must be students of some kind. But William hears the terms axis of faith, axis of cognition, and axis of instinct. Intrigued by this, he follows them for a time and hears them discussing a lesson that they learned earlier that day about the axes along which the other worlds were formed. William isn't all that brushed up on the cosmology, but what he does hear is them discussing the axis of instinct and how the Maw, the world of blood magic, and the Boggenmire, the world of wild magic, how they are somehow polar opposites. This is important news to William, who has sworn his life to end the practice of blood magic in the Seven Kingdoms. And so, I'm sorry, the Six Kingdoms. The Seven Kingdoms is Westeros. What am I talking about? So, having heard this, William determines, well, if druids are the opposite of blood mages and I want to end blood magic, I'd best find a druid. Fortunately, he had heard of one such person on this very day. And so he makes his way toward a workshop in one corner of the city, where two men silently weep at what they have seen. Knock, knock, knock. Alberth, a 6'6" tall man has knocked on your door.
Hello? Oh, hello?
Hey,
Can I help you?
I've heard there's a druid about. I'm looking for them. If you wouldn't mind directing me.
Now,
Oh,
I
yeah,
want to
come on in,
mention...
it's me.
No, before Alberth says that, I do want to mention, Alberth, you've discovered a dangerous secret. You've been keeping your eye out for someone who might be hunting or assassinating you, and a very intimidatingly tall man has just knocked on your door and looking down at you said, I'm looking for a druid, whose name he apparently does not know, despite it being emblazoned on a sign nearby. Are you sure your response is, oh, hey, that's me?
All right. That's fair.
I mean, if that's Albert's genuine reaction, then we can roll with it. It just doesn't bode well for the future.
I think it probably is, but the intent behind it is, okay, if this is going to be a scene, I would rather it happen inside where nobody has to see how many crossbow bolts I put into this guy's skull. And I will be like hand motioning behind my back, like, hey, Merigold, get ready for a fight. This could get ugly fast.
Merigold, you see a desperate sign of, we might be in trouble. You are also 4 drinks into your flask. And as we discussed during your character creation portion of this in session 0, you have gained 0 combat skill outside of the lance and the shield spells that you gained, which you cannot exercise while drunk.
I grabbed the star made out of throwing knives.
What a fantastic callback. I'm going to say, Merigold, I'm giving you an inspiration point. We're bringing back the inspiration points from the second campaign. Whenever you make a phenomenal in-character decision, I'm going to give you an inspiration point. You can use it at any point in the future in the campaign to re-roll a roll you don't like. 1 inspiration point to Merigold.
Real quick, who looks between Alberth and Merigold? Does one look like they would be more druidic, or even just more like, I guess, like learned?
They both probably look pretty... Alberth, I have to ask, are you wearing your red jacket that would... if you weren't wearing your red jacket, I don't think Alberth normally wears clothes that really make him look like nobility, but the red jacket that you described in the first campaign does make me... I feel like someone would see that and be like, that's a nobleman. Are you wearing that?
No, I'm wearing, like, I've probably got, like, a shop apron.
Like a leather
on.
apron?
Yeah, like a leather apron
Tool
on.
belt?
But I will say that, like, on the coat rack just to our left is that, like, red coat.
Okay, yeah.
That you heard about. So,
all right. Well, assuming Alberth, the guy that answered the door, is probably just the guy creating weapons here, I'm going to look over at Merigold and be, oh, you must be him. Hi, I'm looking for a druid. Oh, reach out my hand for it.
Hand is empty.
Yeah, I'll shake your hand.
I will be reaching and, like, pull one of the crossbows out and just, like, have it slightly hidden behind me.
As an act of like, because I've been going around like giving, bringing people joy around the city. I'm going to since this is my first introduction, can I have a little bit of a boon from the DM here and have an extra flask in my pocket that I can pull out? I'm like, hey, you look like you're having a good time around here. Can we join the festivities? We can all have a drink and talk.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially because of William's awareness of grace. I think that having a drink to share with companions is a very William move, and that sounds respectable to me.
You could also carry around a poisoned flask that doesn't poison you, but poisons mortals.
That is true. You will notice, Miles, somewhere on William's spellbook, which is serving as like a whole character sheet, not just a spellbook, that you are resistant to some poisons and diseases that would prove lethal to a mortal, but do nothing to someone with Lycian blood. I mean, you're also a mortal, but you're not like full-blooded mortal. You know what I mean. Several other things I want to mention. We should probably just describe your characters because you guys are meeting each other for the first time. So just real quick, just like we did at first, a description of like who your character is. Let's now hear a quick description of what your character looks like, starting with Alberth.
Cool. Imagine just like he's like a solid 8.5 probably now. If he got really dressed up, he'd be like a 9. Super short king though, 5'8". So he's just like a handsome looking hobbit guy. He's like I kind of described, just like a plain shirt and that leather apron. He's been working in the shop, trying to just like work out his feelings about Abelkashad. So he's probably like got some dried stuff on his face.
Dried rain.
But yeah, just like, he's just a cute little guy.
Right on. Merigold?
I'm trying to remember what I described my character as looking like in the first campaign. I'm probably like 20s, right? Age-wise. I remember I Merigold doesn't dress super rich, but he makes a point to wear like white trousers that he keeps really clean to stand out a little bit. And I will say I'm about my height, so I'm 6 feet tall.
Right on.
Yeah.
Visibly nobility?
What does that mean? Are we talking...
Are you dressed well, and or do you have a generally condescending attitude reflected in your posture?
Oh, I thought you were meaning bad teeth and weak chin, but...
No. Hygiene is actually at an all-time high in Telmeri right now, across class boundaries.
Okay.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I guess Merigold probably... I think what I described him as in the last campaign is he doesn't mean to be condescending, but that doesn't mean he's not. And I don't dress super rich, but all my clothes are always very clean and neat, I guess, which sometimes stands out depending on the city, I guess, but probably not as much standing out here in Telmeri. It's probably pretty average.
Makes sense. Right on. And William.
Yeah, some guy 6'6". I'm just gonna say, pretty clean look, as much as you can tell. Keep the sleeves rolled up. Is there any kind of like garb that like a blood mage would wear specifically? I assume like loose robes to accommodate any kind of injuries that could happen. To be able to like recover up kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you... So I've left this largely up to player indiscretion. You want to end all blood magic. That's your goal. Do you practice blood magic?
Yes.
Like you have the powers. Okay, right on.
Yeah, I'm actively using it and trying to use it to its furthest extent. I want to see where the rabbit hole goes, to fully exploit it in all ways that I could think of to best understand the best ways to destroy it as a concept. And growing the relationship between like blood magic and like the way that I use it only makes me like reaffirmed in my goals.
Interesting. So like a destroy it from within kind of thing, or like you don't want to stop individuals using it. You want to end it on a systemic level kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right on. Okay. Then yeah, loose robes makes sense. Do you carry a weapon?
Yes. I would probably say like a short sword. Probably something small, something I'd be able to withhold away that wouldn't look out of place in whatever town that I'm in. Maybe like a couple of small daggers on my hip in case sword is too big and just ditch it.
Right on. Sweet.
I don't have any weapons, do I? Is that what we decided?
I think if it's same as last time, then Merigold is probably carrying a rapier at his hip, but more like a ceremonial sword. Not really trained to use it, but can pull it out so that people don't come any closer to him in combat.
Okay. And I always have my loot in its case as well.
Right on. So every D&D bar, just a loot and a rapier and light, yeah.
And while I can't do magic while drunk, I'm very good at playing my lute while drunk.
Yeah. Should have been a sorcerer. So, right on. Do you guys think that after sharing a drink for some time... Oh, that's one more question to round out the details about the scene. What's in each of your flasks, Merigold and William, ranging from wine, beer, mead, cider, and some kind of Jack? All makes sense. Jack being any alcohol that's stronger than wine that has to be created by distillation.
I poured some, like, really fruity pink wine into mine, but I didn't realize that I still had a little bit of, like, ale just left over in the bottom of the flask, so it tastes really bad, but I
Jungle
don't
juice
much
it
care.
is. Right on. And William.
A really sweet wine, something that I would. It's strategically used to bring people joy to fuel magic.
Very nice.
So I can share it with people around me to, that has a strong enough proof to get them intoxicated. But whenever they drink it, they don't realize. It's not that they don't realize, but it's not as strong. They don't drink it and go like, "Oh, this is disgusting. I'm having a horrible time." You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right on. Everyone's drinking pink drink is what I'm getting. Everyone's drinking something that they would be embarrassed to order at a bar in the 21st century. Understood.
Before Alberth drinks anything, though, he does want to use his awareness of instinct and make sure that this intruder is not just secretly trying to sneak up and then attack.
Yeah,
he's still pretty worried.
That's a great idea.
Can I sense that they're worried about me? By the way, using grace, am I able to anticipate the need to try and calm the situation down?
No, I think general emotional state you can, but I think the overpowering sense that you get from both Alberth and Merigold right now is mourning. For both Keath and Abelkashad. William, do you think that when Alberth uses his awareness of instinct on you, and when Merigold uses his awareness of secrecy on you, which are both passive things, by the way, you don't have to cast that.
Cool. Okay.
Do you think that Alberth detects anything but chill vibes from you, or that Merigold detects any particular secrecy or hidden motives? Or do you think they just detect an extremely chill dude?
I want them to, I think that coming into the city would also be an amount of mourning.
Mm.
I'm coming for my grandfather, you said?
Yeah,
who's coming near the end of his life? With that being the intent and the exact purpose of this, that's more than likely the underlying tone. But overall, I'm going for chill, dude.
Right on. So yeah, everyone's supernatural senses detect nothing but chill vibes from everyone else, and then you all drink together. Yeah. I assume that in 5-10 minutes, in the fullness of time, you all become, if not fast friends, then certified non-threats to one another.
I think we should immediately, or pretty quickly, let slip how much we are annoyed with blood magic right now because of the whole Albaca situation.
Right on.
Yep.
Freaking blood mages, I can't help but feel it would be better if the Red Temple just didn't exist.
What an intriguing sentiment.
Awareness of secrecy. Ping!
Yes.
Ping! It is at this exact moment that there is a hard triple rap at the door. The kind of rap that is only created by a heavily armored fist.
It's gonna scare me a little, and I'll drop my flask, and I'll hastily pick up the throwing star again.
I will also pick up a crossbow and say, just so you know, William, we did this to you. Here. You also get a crossbow this time.
No, lads, please. Anything can be solved with wine.
What's a crossbow?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Take this gun.
3 drunk men point ranged weaponry at the entrance. Who opens the door?
I will, because it's my shop.
And they can shoot over you.
Oh, that's a good point. Strategy.
You open it up and see a familiar face. Your tall inheritor friend Yasuka in full silver armor. Standing behind her is another fully armored woman of equal height, which is staggering, by the way. They're both over 6 feet, still shorter than William, but of significant height and build. Accompanied by a third person. Grayson, what do you look like?
Right. Grayson is of middling tallish height, 6'1", 6'2", something like that, and has long dark hair and a well-kept, well-trimmed beard. And apparently, from my previous description, wearing a dark cloak, and I don't know if the horse is here with me, but I have a white horse apparently. His name is Felt.
Nice.
Ooh,
I wanted
that.
to leave the name to you. I love the name Felt. I'm giving you an inspiration point. And yes, Felt is at the stables. Yeah, the city just has stables. You have to muck them yourself and like do all the care and stuff, but the real estate itself is free as long as you're staying in the city. So, when Yasuka opens this door, what you see is 3 men, 2 of whom you immediately clock as drunk. The third of whom is extremely short. He opened the door, and you see a red jacket hanging from a peg on the wall behind him. And you're pretty instantly convinced that this is the short man in the red jacket who you saw as being in danger in your vision. And Yasuka glances around, sees that everyone's holding ranged weaponry, and goes, okay. So you guys want to hunt a demon? And that's where we'll call it for today.
Yeah.
Oh,
What a way to go out!
Right on.
Sweet.
Fantastic character development, guys. I'm really excited about it. And viewers, I hope you're really excited too. We'll see you next week, or whenever you click on the next video, in the next installment of the Axis of Instinct. Thanks for coming. We'll see you soon.